What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Hoboken Real Estate Advisors. I'm Jeff Bonk. I got Christian Gonzalez, and I got the sprinkle of fun, as we just decided as we were coming on air here. Read Danielle Bonk, my wife, business partner,
It's
and all that
Thursday.
stuff. So, what's up,
Yes.
everybody? How we doing today? It's almost August. Where we at? How we feeling?
Pretty good. I mean, yeah, Thursday, gloomy day, but still summer vibes. Just
It sounds
happy it's
like
not scorching
thunderstorms.
hot out. It's kind of like a little bit of a
The
chiller few days,
thunderstorms
which is
didn't keep
nice.
anybody from going
It's
outside this
been like
morning,
a
right?
pretty cool last week or two. Thunderstorms might be
Whew.
coming.
Nice.
No, we all got our runs in, which we'll talk about later. I need some run coaching from Christian. I was proud of my numbers until I heard his. But I want to talk. Let's get us started today talking about a few things, just like overall general high level market stuff. I think actually, Christian, to your point, the weather is going to play into that thing, and we're going to talk about that as cooler temperatures over the last few weeks. Did that affect the market at all? Did we see any kind of uptick or downtick in activity? But first, was it yesterday? Today's Thursday. Yesterday was Wednesday. Was the Fed meeting, the Fed decision? We're holding rates. There were some interesting numbers that, like dialogue that came out on the back end of that meeting. Markets went haywire. It's going to affect the next few weeks and months, in my opinion, of where the buyer demand goes and like what kind of inventory comes to the market. So, Christian, you're the closest to the pulse of the finance world, I think. So, why don't you give us
Sure.
like your 30-second, 60-second recap of what you took out of yesterday's meeting and what that could mean
Sure.
for.
So, yeah, absolutely. So we have a new Fed chair that came in, whatever it was, let's say under 2 months ago. And the original impression was that this gentleman was handpicked by the president and that his mantra, or at least the reason he was hired, was to help loosen the economy. What's really come about is that this gentleman has inherited, let's say, some complications, mainly when it comes to inflation. And what a lot of people don't realize is that inflation is the biggest danger to an overall economy. So it may nip you in the butt every once in a while when you go to the grocery store and you may notice things are a little bit more expensive. But holistically, if that number outpaces the growth in the general economy, that could be very, very dangerous because things could become more expensive than the growth of our incomes, which is a detriment to everybody. I know that's a kind of elaborate way of saying that he inherited a big issue. So, long story short, he held rates for this session, but he set a very strong tone that his number one objective is getting inflation to 2%. And right now, it's hovered in the high threes, low fours for however long. And frankly, it's been too high. And we've all felt it in different ways: gas prices, groceries, just everyday life, right? A big driver of that inflation has been the war. The war has caused oil to increase, which has a impact on every single good in the world. Nothing exists without oil. So
Yeah.
oil is the number one, let's say, input into any cost. So what does this mean for mortgages, mortgage rates? The misconception a lot of people have is that that rate decision directly impacts mortgage rates. That's wrong. That rate decision does not impact the 30-year mortgage rate. That rate decision impacts day to day things like your credit card bill, your car loan, things like that, the overall cost of money. But nonetheless, it has an indirect impact on what's called treasury yields. And the number one impact of a mortgage rate is the 10-year treasury yield. What does that mean? It's 10-year government issued bonds that are the backbone as to how the mortgage world works. So what was more important than him holding rates was his tone. His tone was, we are going to do what we need to do to get inflation down. And what that does is it puts pressure on long-term rates and thus increases long-term rates and thus increases mortgage rates. So over the past 2 weeks, we've had the war volatility, and now we've had this tone. And that is where you've seen the 30-year mortgage tick up from 6% to high sixes. And That's a huge, huge impact to the market.
Yep. And here's the one thing that I read out of yesterday's meeting of the notes was for the first time, at least in the last few meetings, there were three people that voted to raise rates last out of the 12 Fed chairs.
Yep.
It's been unanimous for the last couple of decisions, which kind of is scary because rates are going to go up like a 10-year treasury, like everything kind of like raises and falls off of that movement there. Like as Christian says, not directly correlated, but that's something to keep in mind, right? Like I think we trend higher before we trend lower in the next 6 to 12 months is my guess based on how uncertain and like Iran has become again, how the Fed's meeting went this week, and where the inflation numbers are coming in. So, what does that mean? Like, if I'm a Hoboken buyer or seller, right? It's if you're waiting for rates, don't wait for rates. Like, either don't buy right now and just say like I'm out for a while, or transact within the range that we got and get comfortable with those numbers. Because I think waiting for rates to come down in the next 6 to 12 months, anywhere below 6.5 is you're rolling the dice and you're kind of on the outside looking in on the odds of it coming up the way you want it to. So that's what I read out of that. I don't think it helps inventory either. I think it kind of continues to lock in inventory. Anyone who was kind of getting excited about that move up, move down, and like letting go of a lower interest rate because the gap was closing a little bit over the last, you know, first half of this year, it was getting a little bit more attractive. I think that kind of discourages that person from putting that house on the market, unfortunately. And I also think like we saw some equity sell off. I think they're bouncing back a little bit today. That also like just makes people sit still. So I think it comes down to if the time is right for you, it's time to transact. If you're waiting for something to tell you the time is right, it's just not time for you to transact, right? Like that's kind of the moral of the story that I see coming out of this. And it's always that way. That's the way I coach buyers and sellers all the time. But I think in these uncertain times, it becomes even
It
more
sounds to me
the
like
lead,
you guys are so
headline
tied in
of the
to
of the
this in the
conversation.
finance
For sure.
world and the
For sure.
headlines and all the
Well, yeah.
things. But at the end of the day, humans are humans that need a place to live. So if they're looking at this and trying to time it perfectly, that sometimes can be a really tricky game. Even the most savvy, like you guys are, for your family's needs, you can't always time it uber perfectly. Sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do and either, like you said, pay the higher interest rate and then plan to refinance later, or sit still for 6 to 12 months, see how it shakes out, or you go take a rental somewhere, or just, there's options that kind of depend on your family's needs for schools and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think that's why a client or
Right.
prospect would partner with
Yeah.
individuals like us because you need to have a holistic market perspective. I think we've been through ups and downs throughout the years, and there's that saying that Jeff you mentioned in an Instagram post a few days ago that there's a saying that is very common in the equity market that is becoming more common in real estate, and it's not timing the market, it's time in the market.
Yeah.
So I did my best to coach a lot of prospective buyers over the past, let's say, 6 to 12 months
Yeah.
on the fact that we can't focus so much on rates, that we need to focus on holistic strategy. That $1 million home that we could have obtained in March at a 6% is likely going to transact in October at a, let's say, 1.1 and a 7 because and 7, I mean the interest rate. And the the byproduct, or let's say the circumstance that leads to that, is that in a market like this there's such a material imbalance between buyers and sellers that when these events happen, okay, let's say you remove
That's right.
a third of your potential buyers, there's still six buyers there that are going to
Yes.
compete at that price point.
Yep.
And this market is too in demand to really pull back. Could it flatline? Yeah, it could flatline. But will it retrace? I just don't think it's possible. I think Jersey City has a little bit of vulnerability with taxes increasing and the influx of inventory. But in a Hoboken, it's very
No,
hard
and
for
look
this
at
market to
all
pull back just because of the way that it's set up. It
all
doesn't
our
have
buyers
room
and
to pull
sellers.
back.
They are
100%. I
moving
think
here
we
because
are
of a
seeing.
job. They're
Oh, go
moving
ahead.
around because of a partnership, a marriage, a birth, a new baby. they're moving up because of a new baby. They're moving up because kids get bigger. So like we can't stay in these little tiny condos forever. We're always going to be transient and moving. It's a very transient. Hoboken is always going to be buying, selling, moving. We always need a place to live, and we typically need to move around laterally,
Yep.
up, down, all the things. So to kind of like dumb it down, we're not only focused. Yes, the hyper savvy and all you finance
Yep.
guys, I love you, and you're all here. But that's not the only factor, in my opinion.
100%. No, 1,000%. And
Absolutely.
I didn't mean to cut you off, Jeff, because I know you were
No,
about to
go.
speak, but to your point, Red, we I'm seeing this now amongst, let's say, family, friends,
Right?
just my general network, where even those that have fantastic rates,
Yeah,
the clock is
you
running
gotta
out,
go.
where they just have life events and they're just like, I can't do this anymore. I
Gotta do
can't
what you
hang on
gotta
to
do.
this home. I don't want to be a landlord. 3% sounds great, but I have to move on. So
And
they're going to
Yep.
have to
listen, that
wash it away
3%.
and step up. And
Right.
that's
And that
just the way life
3% is
works. It's a
like that
cycle.
was an
And a
anomaly that
lot of
hasn't
people
happened
took
in how many
arms.
years? And it's probably not, we're not going to see it again. So let's stop even thinking about that. Pretend like that number doesn't exist.
Yep. That's the truth. And that, like, a lot of people took, like, so we're talking about this market was probably like 2020 through 2023. A lot of people took 5 to 7 year arms, 10 year arms. Those things are not going, they're not going to last at 2.5, 2.75,
Yeah.
right? Their timeline's coming up even on the rate side of things. So I think we're going to see some more inventory eventually hit them there. I think to your point, Christian, like, we don't see a retrace, but we are seeing a flat line in certain pockets in Hoboken, that kind of middle market, that, like, not uber high end, that not like super well priced or needs a little bit of work. I think there's some opportunity, some deals there. I'm watching some stuff sit. And to your point in Jersey City, I mean, certain pockets, the freaking inventory is high, and there's like people getting motivated to move some properties, and there's some deals to be had there for sure. So if you're okay with the interest rate environment, you need to move, and it's time. Like Christian, you were talking about, like people are just like their timelines are up. They had a second kid, they had a third kid, they have to downsize, upsize, whatever the thing
Yeah.
is. This isn't a bad time. It's like even watching some suburb markets that some of our colleagues cover, they're starting to feel some softness in other places too. So if I'm a buyer, I'm motivated to move because of life events, and I'm not worried about timing the market perfectly for rates, especially, which I'd never agree with anyway. This is a good opportunity the next few months
Yeah, yeah,
potentially if this is where we sit.
yeah. I noticed, let's say in the past month, I had never seen two price cuts on a, let's say, a quality two bed two bath near the path with parking. I had never seen that, and there was two
Yeah,
price cuts, and frankly, we tried the low ball, and they kind of like laughed at us. But nonetheless, it was really like a coming to a reality moment when with speaking to the listing agent, that she almost felt a little lost. She was like, "Hey, what the wind is gone from my sales," and it's not all the
Summer.
wind is gone and the market just took a turn. It's timing, right? We discussed this.
yeah,
Summer is not family time. It's time to it's time for those kind of looking for opportunities to kind of pick their spots. And we found one. A gentleman that I'm working with,
Did
we
you just
found a
say
really
four
nice
bed?
four bed, two bath for
Did you
under
say four?
1.1 with parking. I mean, we were very happy with that.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really awesome.
Four bed. Yeah. Four bed. Yeah.
In
For
Hoboken?
in Hoboken. Yeah.
Wow.
Kind of, yeah, eerie. It's just, you don't expect that.
But there's opportunities. There's definitely opportunities out there. Um,
Yeah.
And I think this is like one of those
Pivot.
moments that makes sense to explore if you're a buyer. So,
Yeah.
all right, let's pivot. I want to talk to you guys. I know our missing partner in crime, Mark Staley, has seen these because he's posted it on Instagram this week.
Yep,
Christian,
I
have you
saw
seen
him in
any of
the
the little
Heights
pink box
when I
box
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
box
on some
walking
tours,
around
and
red? Have
I
you
was
seen
like,
any of
"What is
those?
going on?" It's delivering food.
Well, so not
Oh,
those. I want the ones at Hoboken, the little pink guys. They are
sweet.
surveying the sidewalks and the curbs and all of the state pedestrian safety, which has just started. I think it was like 2 weeks ago or so. The mayor entered this initiative, and it's what I want to talk about it about for like the buy side, right? Like people exploring Hoboken. I don't know if a lot of people know this. I mean, a lot know that we're a very pedestrian, bike riding, kind of like urban center. But we signed up, and I was doing some research this morning for Vision Zero. It was started in Switzerland or Sweden like 10, 15 years ago. And it's the vision that there's no
I
pedestrian
love
or
that.
vehicular caused deaths in the city, right? Like just like Vision Zero, zero, none. It's not something that happens. And Hoboken signed up in 2009, I think it was, as committing to this thing. About 50
Let's
other US cities and states
go.
did, and we're on a 9-year stretch with no vehicular pedestrian related accidents, which is amazing. It's like top of the rankings, like top 5 or 6 on the list, which is awesome. And while we're there, I love that we're continuing as a city to reinvest in like cool new fun technology too, where everyone's taking cool Instagram videos of these little pink robots walking around. But like the
Love
sidewalk
that.
safety, the curb safety, all that stuff is part of the overall bigger picture of Vision Zero. So I thought that was a cool thing to talk about, bring into the conversation here. And just, Christian, you run hundreds of miles around Hoboken a week. Red, we're always on the bikes with the boys, different things like that. So talk about like some of the things that we've seen, I guess, over the last year or two that have improved and like, continue to keep that pedestrian safety in mind.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a 4 year, let's say, veteran of this town, and I just applaud their consistent approach to getting better. When I first moved here, there was issues with floods. That
Mitigated.
seems to have really been, let's say, I don't want to say erased, but it's come leaps and bounds with the new parks, and yeah, it's mitigated. It's not overly concerning anymore. Now, with respect to the curbs, I noticed that early on that those legacy streets like Garden, Bloomfield, that have the great curb appeal with the historic trees and all that. You can't have it all. You can't have trees that are 100 years old that are growing with pavers around them and expect it to be completely perfect. But it's something that's kind of concerning that you could
Strollers.
easily trip. You could,
Strollers were
for
so
the elderly,
tough.
it's concerning. For those that are maybe handicapped, it's concerning. But strollers, perfect example. Strollers. So the town's commitment to, I would say, taking efficient, let's say, measures to improve this, sending robots around to take, photos and whatever, and to like find, let's say, the concerning areas. That's brilliant. Rather
Oh,
than hiring
it's the
labor,
beginning of the
you're
end. We're
taking
being
technology
replaced.
and you're using
Shoot.
it efficiently. I love it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
No, no, no. Just for curbs, not for selling homes.
Oh man, I fell asleep last night. I got this bad habit of listening to podcasts as I fall asleep recently. It's something I got to stop doing, but it's
Oh
like
God.
I,
What
I
did he
enjoy it.
say?
I was listening to Elon's most recent podcast, and they were asking him about
That's
AI.
that's
He
also
did
not a
some.
normal mind. So
Someone was asking him like, "Hey, 10 years, what's like the vision?" And he's like, "Everyone keeps talking about this vision in 10 years. I think it's in 5 years. Like, we don't need to do
We
anything
don't kill
anymore in five
ourselves
years.
off.
Hopefully, it's a utopia and not a friggin' complete takeover by AI. It was a little. He was just like he was very confident and matter of fact about it. He's like, yeah, the most likely outcome is that in 5 years we all don't have to work or do anything, and everything's provided for us. And hopefully, the people that make all the money off AI, they don't just take it all and put us all in like little shells and blah 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 like the Matrix.
All
But it should
right,
most highly
Elon.
probability is that we're all living amazing lifestyles
Let's
more better than
go.
we can ever imagine
Retirement
within
got
3 to 5
bumped up.
years. I was
Yeah.
like, that's short. That's like a really short amount of time. But anyway, we have robots walking around Hoboken, and for now, the robots
I
are cute
love
and
that.
pink and helping us stay safe on the sidewalks. So let's
I've been
enjoy this
saying
level
that
of AI
for
and
years
robotics
since
and
we had the
keep our
babies.
eye on what Elon has to
I
say.
remember just being
yeah, for
salty
Um,
sure.
all right.
about the like all the roots and like "This- I can't get through here with a stroller." And I'd send poor Tiffany Fisher. She's a saint. I would send her a text message like, "Can you fix this?" Or like when the curb cut wasn't perfect and I had to like go out into the street with the baby, I'd be like, "Tiffany, why is this curb cut like this? Please get this fixed."
Yeah. Well, the crazy thing is,
Sixth
though,
ward.
so Tiffany
We
Fisher
should
is
probably
our
know that. We should
councilwoman
probably know
up in
that.
the fifth ward. Is that where we are in
She
Northeast
does get it
uh,
done.
part of town? Sixth ward.
And it,
You text her stuff, she just like gets it dealt
and
with.
in all
She just
fairness,
gets it. It's
Emily
insane. Like
did
our
too.
council
When
people
we,
in
the
this town
Hoboken
are
mommies are vicious,
active,
man.
and
You
Hmm.
go on Hoboken
they're not.
mommies and you put them on blast. Emily, blah, 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 boom, she would address it. She would address the people, which I kind of love. Like we have that small town feel for a big little city.
There's
Yeah.
There's a saying amongst the youth that
Yeah, I
she's got
love
that
that.
dog in her. You know,
I
like
remember my
you
first
give
town
her
council
something to
meeting.
do,
Do you
she's gonna
remember
get
I
it
went
done.
to that and I was like,
That's the
I was
truth.
shaking and my voice was shaking, but I
Yeah,
was
the
like,
one.
as a mom of two small children, I strongly feel that this town could be more safe and I want a stop sign and a stoplight and blinking things everywhere. You remember that? It was so embarrassing. I was an advocate for safer pedestrian and cycling.
Yep, you're that one. But
Totally. Totally.
you care. You care about the safety of this community in all ways. So the one thing I'll say to kind of wrap this topic is anyone who has kids in Hoboken or is using, even if you're just commuting or getting around, but usually the kids get you on these things, those little scooters, the kind of push scooters, not the big,
Oof.
motorized ones with the big inflatable wheels, but the smaller wheels. Watch out for the sidewalk cracks as you get used to those things around town, because even the
Micro.
smallest sidewalk crack, I don't know, it's been 4 or 5 times over the
Yeah.
last 2 years since the boys
Yeah.
got me chasing them around on those scooters. They will catch on any little crack. So be careful and keep
Oh
your
wait,
weight
quick
forward in the
shameless
front. Like
plug
keep your
though.
weight
Shop
back.
local,
Like
Flow on
that
Wheels.
forward weight,
Those guys are the
no
best.
good.
You
So
just take your kid there,
anyway,
you go in, they hook you up with the right size scooter and the little in the
Flo's the
helmet with
best.
the little
Yep.
dinosaur. Oh my gosh, so cute. Flow on Wheels, 12th and Wash, 13th and Wash. I don't know.
So the one thing I want to wrap up with here, so I have to cut a little early today. Before we got started, hit record, I was asking Christian if he's going to our annual EXP conference in Salt Lake in a few months because there's a 5K race,
Oh
and I'm
yeah,
bringing,
big
bringing
back's
this
not
big
nice.
back body for another kid's term. Big back is the other thing people are calling. I'm not a runner's body, more of a football lineman's body, but I'm going for 5K records for me, 25-minute 5K. And Christian, as I was telling him about my amazing, record, he's like, "Yeah, man, I'm pissed off, dude. I was trying to do a 20-mile
And
run
you
this morning and I
bonked.
bonked around 14." I was like,
All right.
Shut up, first of all.
Ah,
16
Just
miles
shut
is not
up."
a bonk.
But
it's
you
a
talk about like
journey.
just chipping away at it, grow. It's a journey, right?
Yeah.
Guy's out of his mind. But
It's the
Let's
journey.
go.
So I'm fortunate enough to be running the New York City Marathon on November 1st. So,
Right.
when you find out about that, what you don't do is you don't start training in August. You start training the second you find out.
yeah,
So I've been pretty, let's say, consistent since May about just kind of getting my mileage up. And you'd be surprised. Like early on, it really hurts, but if you stay consistent and you just kind of slowly grow every week, like we're at a point now where you just kind of get in a flow. You just get in a flow. You
I
fall in love with
love
it.
it.
It's just like any practice in life. You just have to be disciplined, stay consistent, and you will improve.
and I think it goes to like the buyer seller journey. It goes to like any other real estate agents out there that are starting to grow their business. Like those first couple
Mm.
weeks, months, days of anything that you're starting feels really intimidating. And what I found is like for running, to make the running equivalent, like certain muscles that don't
It's
get
different.
used. And I go to the gym, I lift weights, I do like cardio at slower paces, but there's like the lower
Yeah.
quad for whatever reason doesn't get used in those workouts that I've been doing. So when I like that hurt. So like when you get out there and start looking at homes, you're making offers or like you're listed and you're sitting a little bit, it hurts. It's painful for a minute because it's new. It's a new concept. It's something new you're trying to accomplish. It's the unknown. We do our best to set the tone for people from the buyers, sellers, and real estate agent side of things, explain the process. I think Christian explaining that and saying, "Dude, watch how you kind of hockey
And
stick,
the good
spin like
news
the
is
early."
we've done it
That's the equivalent of
hundreds, if
that, and
not
that's why I kind of wanted
thousands
to
of
wrap with that
times.
here
So
today.
Yeah,
I
for
just
sure.
we're
wanted to
And
get
to
there
that
put
in.
every
it,
step of the way. Not for running, but for home buying and selling.
yeah, it, and to put it, yeah, to put examples to that. I mean, me on a personal basis, my wife and I, when we bought our first home, which was 4 years ago, I mean, you're so scared when you're writing that first check, right? You're just like, let's hope this works. Like you're
Yeah,
just praying. But we're fortunate enough to be purchasing our third place now. We have two rentals now. We're purchasing our third place, and the experience and let's say the education of the process and really learning how to spot opportunities afforded us one where we were able to take advantage of the market. So that's just a perfect example of whether you're buying, you're selling, you're in real estate, whatever it is, educate yourself, spend time on podcasts, read articles, understand why rates move, get a feel for how terms work, right? Then we can get a little bit more comfortable around structures. And then that leap of faith turns into more of a, we know what we're doing here.
Absolutely. I think no better place to wrap up than that. Red, any final parting words before we kick it for the week?
No, but congrats. That's great, Christian. You and your wife are a good partnership.
Thank you.
No, they sure are. So, all right, everybody. Great hanging out. Hope this was some helpful information, a little update on the market, a little update on what's going on around Hoboken. And we'll see you next week. Everyone have a great weekend.
Take care,
Thanks.
guys.
You too.
Bye-bye.